Kawasaki's ZX9R Ninja. Here it is, been around for some time now, and it's always been very well respected. I can't ever recall it getting any really bad press. So it must have been about right from the start. Well, yes it was, but would you believe now it's even better? One of the things that's always appealed to me about the ZX9 is that when you climb aboard, it actually feels incredibly sensible for an out-and-out sports bike, super bike. It's still got a single seat like many other sports bikes, but it's a big size single seat. It's not very thick, not all that comfy, but it's big enough to slide around on. And in fact, you could actually slide right to the front on this, and it's not too much of a stretch to the bar, so you could sit almost upright if you wanted to. You would look a bit of a plonker riding around like that all day, and you certainly wouldn't be able to sustain that position for very long, not if you wanted to enjoy the best feature about this bike, the power. Make no mistake, this is a very fast machine. 143 brake horsepower is the same as the previous ZX9, but this new model does feel sharper and a bit more nimble than its predecessor. Most of the improvements aren't actually visible. The modifications to the motor include a new all-aluminium cylinder block with electroplated cylinders to save weight. It has tighter piston clearances to give an increased compression ratio, reshaped intake ports and a new, more efficient ram air system designed to scoop more fresh air into the now larger airbox. Combine all of that with Kawasaki's unique throttle response sensor, which first appeared on the 98 model, and you have a motor with more mid-range and better efficiency. So say Kawasaki, and I tend to agree. The power of this latest Ninja is fantastic. So most of the mods you can't see, and there are more that you can't see. It's got a larger curved radiator than before. It's got a lighter clutch. There are modifications to the gearbox, smoother gear changes, and it's got a bigger, more powerful alternator. So there you go. One of the most distinctive changes, of course, is to the styling, especially the front end here. This big pointy headlamp here, underneath which sits this, what my colleague Jeff Stone referred to as a pooper scooper when he looked at this at last year's bike show. This is of course this huge air intake for the ram air system, and I have to say there's nothing better in motorcycling, no better sound than a big Kawasaki sucking air in. Get your head down over the tank, big fistful, and just listen to the noise. It's terrific. And let me just show you this. Watch this when I put the key in, turn the ignition on. Watch the dials. Look at that, wee, fantastic. You might remember, you've seen that before. The first time I saw that was on a Suzuki Hayabusa when we were in Spain testing out there. And what it is, it's a way of recalibrating themselves, the dials. They start at zero and they go to the full extent of the travel, recalibration every time you switch on, so you get a good accurate reading every time. Good, isn't it? Do you want to see it again? Watch, here we go. Whoa, look at that. The brakes, well, they're not any different to before really as far as the calipers go. Takiko 6-pots, the old model had them. A little bit more to grab hold of now though, because the discs are up from 296 to 310 millimeters, and superb they are as well. More mods down towards the back end. Swing arm, that's completely different. Well, sort of completely different. It's full of muck at the moment because of the British weather, but it's now a pentagonal section swing arm instead of the normal sort of box square section. It's got this internal bracing in it. It's stiffer and more rigid than before, but would you believe it's actually lighter than before? Suspension, not much to talk about there, more or less the same. They've revised the damping in the front forks, but the back now, it has a ride height adjustment as standard, so you can adjust the ride height, not a great deal, but a little bit. And they've also revised the rear suspension linkage a little bit as well, to give a more rigid, a firmer and a much more sporty ride. There's a whole load of other technical modifications, mainly to the front end. The fork offset has been reduced by 5mm and the steering head bearing actually moved forward. They've even replaced the tapered steering head bearings with ball bearings in an effort to give the ZX9R a lighter feel through the bars. It's certainly better, although it does somehow just lack the cutting edge of Yamaha's R1. Now I doubt that many people would be brave enough to take a brand new ZX9R onto a racetrack, but that's the only place to really enjoy the power and ability of this machine. So here we are, a racetrack. You know, I got these directions off Wayne. I said to him the other day, I said, I want to set 143 horses loose on a racetrack. And he sent me here. What's it like? If you want something doing, do it yourself. Well, it wasn't quite the type of racetrack I had in mind, although I wasn't exactly a million miles away from the real thing. I probably saved myself a few bob by leaving early anyway. Now this is more like it. A nice, short and fairly twisty circuit to try out this new ZX9R. Okay then, onto the track. And starting grid, position number 1 of course. But hang on, there's a car on grid number 2. And it's my friend Wayne in his super duper V6 powered Ford Mondeo. Well, that's the last I'll see of him for the rest of the day. Now the new Ninja behaved itself superbly well on the circuit. Throttle response is absolutely instantaneous. The amount of power on tap really is quite awesome. The steering is certainly lighter than on previous models, but there is still plenty of feedback through the bars, even when powering hard out of a corner. Price-wise, it's in the same ballpark as Yamaha's R1 and Honda's new Fireblade at just over £8,000. Performance-wise, it's as fast as you'll ever need. Well, there's absolutely no doubt about it. This is the only place to enjoy a bike like this. Racetrack, superbike, the perfect combination. It really is a super bike, the new ZX9R. Tons and tons of mid-range, much better than the old ZX9. Sharper steering than the old one, but I have to say, perhaps still not quite as flicky as like your R1 and maybe your GSX-R. But a superb bike, excellent brakes, slam the brakes on at the end of the straight, lap after lap after lap, no fading, very, very positive, great, great fun. In fact, I think I could probably just squeeze another dozen laps in, excuse me.